So, thank you very much for joining me and Andrea for this morning session, this plenary session. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Andrea Sousa, professor at the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro. I have a very long CV here, but I have been allowed to take the highlights. So, professor in Rio de Janeiro, you are also a member of the executive secretary of the Brazilian Panel on Climate Change and coordinator of the Sustainable Transportation Lab. You have significant experience within the field of energy, environment, transportation nexus, and this is also what we're going to benefit from today, where you are going to talk about energy transportation nexus, and actually also some of the nexuses between transportation and climate change, because on the one hand, climate change is impacted by transportation, but transportation clearly also is impacted in other ways by climate change. So we have a dual impact there basically. And this is what we're going to explore this morning. You are going to have something like 45 minutes to present your ideas on the topic, and afterwards I hope that we can engage in some meaningful discussion, have some good questions so we can get a vital discussion and wake people up. So with these few words, I would like to pass the microphone on to you.
Thank you very much, Paul. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. I would like to thank you, the organization, for having me here, and I hope to be part of the Sdewes family. It's a very interesting congress, and I'd like also congratulate all the presentations that I had an opportunity to see in the past days. So, as Paul explained very well, I will talk about climate change and also how climate change is impacting the climate change. Transportation sector is impacting climate change regarding climate mitigation, also options that we have to discuss how to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and also how the extreme weather events are impacting the systems, the transportation infrastructure. And I would like to start presenting this. It's a very new data that was presented by Copernicus that confirmed that 2025 was the third hottest year and on record. So just to point that 2024 remains the warmest year on record, and this is a very dangerous data, and all the scientific community is very concerned about it. So we see that the past 11 years have been the 11 warmest on record, and in 2023, was the first time that we achieved 1.5. So considering the last 3 years, we confirm that we achieved 1.5. What it means, everybody here knows about the Paris Agreement, and the main objective of this accord is don't pass 1.5. We have to try to limit the global temperature 1.5 below 2 degrees Celsius. So we are putting the Paris Agreement is at risk, especially because the last NDCs, that means nationally determined contribution for the countries, they presented the actions that is not enough to limit to 1.5. So the situation is very critical. Also, regarding the energy-related CO2 emissions, we see that transportation, as I mentioned, is a sector that is the largest in terms of greenhouse gas emissions, and also it's contributing to worsening climate change. And IPCC and other data confirms that, especially in the road transport, and you see here in this figure in orange color, it's the CO2 emissions estimated around 20% globally, and the roads in the transport globally represent for 70-75%. Why we are trying to translate here? We have to work hard and change all the systems, especially transport, road transport, to low carbon emission transportation. Swift from the intensive carbon vehicles, for example, to a low carbon. And we see some opportunities, especially yesterday I had the opportunity to see the presentation of Professor Neve and the other professors talking about this transition and how the electrification is showing us that can be an opportunity, especially for Brazil. When I talk about Brazil, we have a very high participation in terms of our electricity metrics in terms of renewable. So, and I have here in this figure, we see these exploratory scenarios considering today data, and also comparing for the different trajectories. Also, like IPCC, we consider the optimist, but the business as usual scenario. But to resume, all the scenarios show us that the emissions will keep increasing and the temperature will increase also. And we have some reflections regarding the electricity, that demands grows much faster than the overall energy use. Also, you need electricity to adapt to climate change. For example, in global south now we are facing heat waves. In the global north, facing very cold temperatures. And this is an example how the demand for electricity will be increasing. In this figure, it's only to show how the participation regarding road in terms of the other modes is increasing. And also we have to consider other aspects in terms of environmental impacts. For example, local air pollutions, and also the cascade impacts that is affecting the health systems, and the costs will increase. And of course, we see that the big challenge for especially urban areas is how to promote these low carbon transportation systems, especially focus on public transportation. In terms of global investment in clean energy, we don't have a key good message yet, but the investments are increasing, but very slow. And we see here in 2025, the investment in oil and gas is still high. So considering the international agreements, and especially in COP28 in Dubai, that we had the document, the Dubai Consensus, that appear as the first time in the history of the climate conference, a key message that we must transition away from fossil fuels. So we have many challenges, and another question that I would like to ask you, to the audience, is this transition just transition, especially for developing countries, and we have to consider other aspects. We are not talking only about energy transition. We are talking about a transition that must be justice. And we have to consider green jobs, other opportunities. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to see how you accommodate the new business model that are surging, etc. So, to resume, the key evidence is that we are not fully replacing fossil fuels, and also we are putting in risk the target to meet 1.5 goal. What we need to go and what we need to do regarding the net zero scenario, and for transport sector, the emissions had to fall by around 25% by 2030. So we see that the demand continues to grow, is growing. You know that the cost to transform the systems, especially transport system, is very high. So this is we have to consider the short, long-term policies, because this has to be an investment to transform the transport systems. The policy needs also to encourage shifting to less carbon-intensive travel options, like active transport, as well as more efficient technologies, electric cars and trucks, and options, as I said, to reduce is well understood, but in many cases, as I said, is cost effective. And another opportunity is a smart energy system, the Power-to-X, that this is one of the research lines that we are doing in the university, that is convert the excess of renewable electricity, especially solar, that we are studying in the university, and using other forms, like a green hydrogen. And also we are producing green hydrogen. We have, I will show in the next slide. And also aviation, sustainable aviation fuel. In terms of the transition in the transport sector, I would like to talk a little bit about the strategies, and one of them is electric cars, that we see the transition happening. I always ask it to the audience, who here has an electric car? You see? Only in the first line. Another one. And maybe next year in the conference, I will ask again, and 20% or 30% will say, yeah, I have. Of course, that I always say that we don't have a perfect solution. This is part of the solution. We have to consider other aspects, especially life cycle analysis. For Brazil, it makes sense. I defend electrification in Brazil. Also, another aspect that we have to consider is a modal shift, especially for non-motorized transport in public and low carbon fuels, biofuels, hydrogen. In Brazil, I have the data that in 2024, we had, considering 2023, we sailed around 170,000 vehicles, electric vehicles. In 2024, 237,000 electric vehicles. So it's representing from 90 to 187%. You see that we are accelerating this. In globally also, we had more than 70 million of cars, electric cars in 2024. So this is growing very fast. Regarding buses, we are facing some problems that you present also, what you are doing to support the academia, supporting the government in Brazil. Another data that I would like also to show, it's a very new one, that it's a Global Economic Forum produced this report that calls a Global Risk Report, that considered for now to 2026. In one data that I would like to highlight is regarding the extreme weather events. Considering the other categories, but if you see, the 5 of the 10 major risks are related to climate change. So we need to be prepared. We need to invest in adaptation. Of course, mitigation is urgent. We need to promote the transition away from fossil fuels and reduce emissions, but we need to adapt. And the three most severe risks over the next 10 years are related to events like heat waves, drought, floods, severe storms, and also with loss of biodiversity. So in Brazil, you are always trying to work closely to government and as academia in supporting policy make and decision make. I was part of the committee and represented the university, the academia in Brazil, and I supported the elaboration of the climate plan. In Brazil, we have the two axes, mitigation and adaptation. And for the national plan, for mitigation national plan, regarding transport, we have the urban mobility in the focus, that is to prioritize the reduction of compulsory travel, motorized vehicles also, increasing the use of public transport and also active transport, and reducing short-lived climate pollutants. The focus was in the black carbon and methane. As you know, the methane, we have also a global agreement regarding the methane, and the emissions is higher and the global warming potential higher than in comparison with a CO2. Another initiative that also I was involved in is related to sector coupling and green economy. The idea is we are working on capacity building for the municipalities in Brazil and preparing them to giving all assistance to advancing in electrification, especially for public transport. So this is a part of the agreement that we had in the university with the Ministry of Mines and Energy in Brazil. And I would like to share some key practical elements and early findings from the project. That the municipality technical assistance, we are working, we selected some municipalities that we receive the support. We are also supporting in the process to buy the new buses and all the licitation and audition process. Also, we supported to measure realistic targets in the short and medium goals. Cross-sector collaboration, coupled mobility industry with research institutions and companies and with the government. We are also helping to mobilize a pilot funding technical diagnostic with stakeholders, and the focus on business models and digital tools. We are supporting also to develop business cases, digital plans, tools. What I would like to highlight is that the sector coupling reduces systems cost. This is another topic that we were discussing yesterday. Considering the transport industrial electrification together and linking them to grid planning. So we can lower the incremental costs of flexibility and also storage. And the barriers that we identify, there are many, especially finance, upfront capital and finance gaps for buses and charging infrastructure, for example, regulatory fragmentation, grid capacity, limited technical capacity. This is very common, especially in Brazil. It's a big country with many states and municipalities. And also the risk of inequitable outcomes if cost savings aren't passed to users or workers. So, resuming, we scale municipal technical assistance packages. We have more than 20 cities now working in this kind of assistance. Used blended finance to provide the risk early procurements. Also mandate fleet electrification targets for public fleets, and also coordinate grid upgrades. We are discussing with electric companies and agencies in Brazil, and smart charging pilots. If for the last, invest in workforce training and local supply chains. So as I said, Brazil has a large renewable electricity capacity. So we have the strong potential to make this project and support this transition in Brazilian cities. So this is the picture that I mentioned, the project that we call Green Hydrogen Project. I receive support from the German government, the GIZ, and some universities in Brazil receive the research to implement an infrastructure. So I have the electrolysis, the technology to produce the green hydrogen, and my laboratories are focusing on do research regarding micromobility. We have 4 electric hydrogen bikes, and we are developing some studies regarding autonomy, the quality of the hydrogen that we are producing. We are facing some challenges, especially in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro, water quality. It's a very bad quality, unfortunately. Then I can share in another opportunity some data with you all. And this is the scope of the project. So we are using solar panels, and from water electrolysis producing green hydrogen. And in cooperation with other laboratories, we are doing research regarding energy storage and produce electricity, and using the mobility, micromobility, and also producing some synthetic e-fuels, chemicals for aviation. This is the bicycles that we are using in tests in the university. So I'd like to present another initiative that is in partnership also with the government. In this, it was with the Ministry of Cities in Brazil. We finished the first stage of the project that was mapping urban climate initiatives in Brazil regarding mitigation and adaptation. And for our surprise, we identified more than 200 initiatives, and 40% of this initiative was focused on adaptation. For the first time in history, we always see initiative regarding mitigation. But you see that it could be a good sign. Brazil, we think how to prepare, how to increase the resilience. Regarding 32% that was focused on mitigation, and 28 combined the two approaches. We are always saying about the importance to promote synergy between mitigation and adaptation. And regarding urban mobility, I'm doing some also research with my students, and promote some connection with the Brazilian climate plan and targets, and see how this initiative could represent in terms of reduce greenhouse gas emission and also promote resilience in Brazil. And in terms of actions, we see more the emphasis more on active transport, so investment in cycling, walking, transform cities to accommodate better the transport active mobility. In terms of results, we made an analysis considering, as I said, public policies, and also the emphasis on active transport, energy transition, electrification. Some initiative was focused on promote electrification, and also collective transport efficient. In general, we saw that the make public transportation more efficient was the focus of many initiatives collected. And regarding the evaluation of the status regarding climate actions in Brazilian cities, we see that we identify many barriers that including, for example, limited technical assistance, capacity for in municipal level, for example. And that is important to highlight that we need to promote and coordinate multi-level governance, like including federal, state, and municipalities, and link all the policies that could bring more effectiveness in this initiative. So, regarding adaptation, I will start talking a little bit about the climate impacts. We see that regarding mitigation, we have many challenges, but also adaptation is happening right now, and very slow as the energy transition, but we see many initiatives and adaptation plans being elaborated in many countries, but also we have to consider that climate change poses a growing threat to transportation infrastructure. So impacting highways, ports, all the systems and infrastructure. And in particular, we are looking about some extreme weather events like heat waves, heavy rainfall, and others. And the effects of from the extreme weather event in hazard encompass direct but also indirect impacts on various infrastructure elements on transportation activities. This is data from the Global Infrastructure Resilience Organization that they are also elaborating maps that we can identify some information regarding some extreme events, and also how they are impacting the infrastructure. And also we see that this kind of initiative is very important, the investment in the data and the monitoring, and understand better how the cities and countries are facing the extreme weather events. Also, I'd like to highlight the climate vulnerability of infrastructure. That is a very important. We need to promote more studies to identify the vulnerability, risk assessments, etc. Adaptation planning in transport system, that it's very crucial, and the resilience of supply chains. This paper, I was one of the authors that we are studying specific heat waves and how we have to prepare the transport sector, was published in Nature with other colleagues. And we see that considering this comprehensive assessment, we would like to share then some information that could help decision making around the world. So we see that the recent, especially in 2023, after a review literature, we see that is appearing more studies regarding heat waves. I was talking for decades, but now I see that the countries, the cities are trying to do something to how to face. For example, Rio de Janeiro. I see colleagues here from Rio de Janeiro. Now the municipality of Rio implement a specific policy to monitoring the level of heat in Brazil, considering 1 to 5, and also the public minister in Brazil said to Rio de Janeiro that they have to adapt the schools, because during the heat wave the students are having problems, cannot attend the classes, and some fall in the room. So this is also a very critical problem that we have to think about. This picture is very famous. This was the floods in Rio Grande do Sul I don't know if you remember, in 2024. This is the airport of Rio Grande do Sul, Salgado Filho Airport. You can see the impact of it was considered one of the most important disaster in Brazil. And the time to recover, they are still trying to completely recover. The airport starts operation again only October last year. So you see the time and loss in terms of costs and also in the transport, because including to assess the victims, they could not assess the transport system. The airport closed for more than 1 year. To recover, it was very difficult. So this is an example how you will have to lead and to promote adaptation in the transport systems. So during the last decade, the number of extreme climate events has increased. And now, especially for road transportation, we see that's a very critical in Brazil. Because of this, we are doing some research and identifying, considering the methodology of a risk assessment, which areas, especially highways and road and the road and rail transport, and doing some investment on adaptation. Regarding the key and tools and methodologies, as I said, we are using risk assessment on road and rails, including statistical accidents, analysis methodology, vulnerability studies, event-based risk analysis also. And in Latin America, the adaptation of those tools, we see many tools that is elaborate, for example, in German, but we need also to evaluate and adapt it to our reality. Because we cannot only import some tools, we have to design specific tools, and we are doing these and help the Ministry of Environment and Transport in Brazil. So just to, Paul, you don't pass my time, you just highlight the importance of vulnerability studies. We need to understand and assess the susceptibility of road and rail infrastructure to different types of risks. In vulnerability assessment, these combine exposure, sensitivity, and adaptive capacity. And one of the problem regarding the data is that we don't have serial data, and also in Brazil, we don't have the same standard. So in many data that we collected, we don't have information regarding GPS that you could locate which kind of infrastructure we are talking, this bridge or the roadway. So this is another also problem. And regarding the adaptive capacity, we could not identify a clear indicator. Because of this, we suggested to include, especially for the concessionaires that is administrating the roads in Brazil, to include this indicator for in the future we have a specific index to calculate the risk assessment in the infrastructure. Risk mitigation, especially, is important investment on improving emergency response and early warnings for all. For example, this is a very important, save lives, but also reduce the cost to maintain and to recover infrastructure. And also hazard-based risk analysis that evaluates the vulnerability of the transports, road and rail, and event-based risk analysis that we are doing some research focus on specific risk. So I have a student focus on air transportation, some roads, rail, and we are creating these kind of assessments to evaluate the vulnerability of transport systems. So just to resume, we see that the IPCC defined risk as the potential for diverse consequence for human or ecological system, recognize the diversity of values associated with such system. So also we have to consider local and specific conditions when we are doing this kind of studies. And the climate-related risks, we see clearly in the results some maps consider hazard, exposure, and vulnerability. This is the methodology that we use it from IPCC and the risk assessment, considering also vulnerability hazards, exposure. This is a very important because we consider where the infrastructure is located and the sensitivity, for example, regarding the condition, if this infrastructure has a good maintenance, if is a new one or not, this will change completely the risk assessment analysis. And basically, we have to consider geographical diversity, socioeconomic challenges, specific also climate conditions of the region. And this is the project that I had an opportunity to coordinate in Brazil, supporting the Minister of Transport, that we elaborated this risk assessment for the transport and the federal terrestrial transport infrastructure. And after this study, the government published a new law that will continue this work and upscaling for all the countries, for all the road and rail infrastructure, with new parameters and new indicators also. Regarding the climate adaptation plan, just to highlight that the main objective is building resilience against extreme weather via infrastructure update. And also we have another initiative, Coalition for Decarbonizing Transport, Adapta Cidades, that is a federal program training state and municipality creating capacity building to develop adaptation plans locally. That also is crucial for urban transport systems. And Adapta Vias, that is the project that I previously mentioned with the Minister of Transport to assess climate risks. So I don't know, but this is the QR code that if you are interested to download the Brazilian climate plan, that this adaptation was focused on adaptation strategy and also consider 16 other key themes that we are considering crucial sectors in Brazil, and transport is one of the sectors. This is the data regarding the population that is affected in Brazil in the 2 decades. So we see that the number of people affected is increasing. We see some years, but we cannot compare that, for example, with a year that the temperature was the highest in the history. But we see that number of people are increased almost 20 times. So this is also a very concerning data. And the Brazil developed a platform, the Minister of Science Technology, to centralize this data, and we can see the observer projected climate change for many sectors. As I said, we had the key sectors. The study that I coordinated was this one, infrastructure, road and rail infrastructure, but we had to water resources and health and other data. And this is the example of the maps that we are producing in Brazil, mapping all the infrastructures and the road systems. You can have an idea how challenging, because Brazil is so high. We are talking about a continent, looks like a continent in terms of size. So, and to give my final remarks, I would like to highlight that we are crossing 1.5, unfortunately. We are in the very wrong and dangerous way. So we have to encourage progress, how to do the transition in the best way. This transition has to be just for all, especially for vulnerable countries. And also we see opportunities to escalate the number of actions. We are always talking how to increase the finance, how to scale up the actions that you all are from the academia. You see that sometimes we are presenting some solutions and how to scaling up these. Then one question that I made this morning. If this is a very good opportunity, low cost and very efficient, why you are not implementing the cities? Some, for example, nature-based solutions, green rooftops, etc. And also, what I would like to highlight is the absence of robust public policies and limited integration of climate projection into planning. It exacerbates the vulnerability of transportation systems. So if you are not investing in adaptation now, the cost will be higher in the future. This is the cost of inaction that we're talking in IPCC. Professor Nevin knows very well. And for my last message that I would like to bring is that all these challenges, we need to consider to address this challenge, adopt a multifaceted strategy that combine mitigation and adaptation. This is a very good opportunity, and we can have adaptive multi-level governance, climate projections, and climate risk informed decision making. Especially, we see in the literature many opportunities to nature-based solution, adaptation-based ecosystems. We are here also talking about environmental issues. Pay attention that we have many opportunities to use the nature to promote mitigation and adaptation. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Andrea, for a very nice, interesting presentation about transport, climate change, and the impact, the dual direction impact there. You don't have to sit down because I'm sure that somebody's going to have some questions for you. I also have a few, but I will wait until I see if some of the audience have. I can see that someone's already indicating here.
Since electric cars don't have combustion, and they can go quite well into the water, so this is, I'm already adapted. I can use Tesla as a submarine. But coming out of a joke, infrastructure for charging, I think it's a huge problem in South America. Now the sales of electric cars are growing very fast. I can drive from Santiago de Chile to Natal, but only in Uruguay the infrastructure seems to be developing fast enough. This is one question. And the other question is related to drying of Amazon. Isn't that the biggest adaptation problem in Brazil when it completely dries and it becomes Sahara? How are you going to adapt to that without hydro?
Okay. Yeah, good question. You see that the lack of a good infrastructure, especially for charging, it's a reality in Brazil. We always say that who becomes first, the egg or the chicken? Huh? Because it's happening because of the industry. They are putting pressure to the government and creating new standards and investment in infrastructure. It was a problem, maybe, because in fact, it's good when we have regulation, starting with planning, new development model, the new industrialization, but it's not, it's happening. We see the number of vehicles that are sailing especially in Latin America and Brazil. So this is a huge problem. We are discussing with government, with companies, industry, how to increase and adapt the infrastructure. Imagine if all Brazilians decide to change the motorized vehicle for electric vehicle. We will be a collapse. We don't have infrastructure to charge. So this is a very good point, Professor Navin. Yeah, we have to work hard on this regulation and the new parameters regarding also charges, because we have different types. If Tesla decide to use one and the other company, BID, another one, we have to standard these kind of issues also. And the second, regarding the Amazon, yeah, we are going to a tipping point in the Amazon region. We are facing very critical extreme weather events, and it's becoming drier, especially in some areas in the border area of Amazon. It's becoming a savanna, and we are losing biodiversity. I don't know if you know, but all the rain that is coming to the southeast part of Brazil, it's produced in the Amazon. We call fly rivers. This is very important, not only for Brazil, but for the global balance between humidity, temperature, everything. So this is very difficult. Brazil is trying to implement some policies to control deforestation. And in the COP30, we launched the specific fund, Tropical Forest Forever Fund. I don't know if you know about this, but we, as I said, nature-based solutions will be the most important action that we have to do. Restoration from the forests around the world, especially, of course, Amazon, because of the importance of the forests for the world. Thank you so much.
We have a next question up here. If you'll turn on your microphone.
Okay, thank you, Andrea, for this very insightful presentation. Maybe on the one of the starting slides, you showed a graph of fossil fuel shares until 2025, and correctly stated that we are not phasing out the fossil fuels. But this statement is very correct if we have this perspective of considering past and presence, and based on that, and also we being as agent who will have to phase out fossil fuels. But let me offer a different perspective. For example, if the agent is who needs to phase out fossil fuels is not we, but the market. And second, if we see the same figure but projected, but the same trends but projected for the future, we think that based on the dramatic growth of investments in clean energy, the shares of different fuels will be changed dramatically. So a simple arithmetic will show that fossil fuels will be phased out in somewhere around in 2060. So this in a way could offer a different perspective about phasing out and markets driven by reduction of clean technology costs, by learning curves, and they will do their own job without any policies, without need to be here to phase out fossil fuels. fossil fuels will be phased out based on the dramatic rise in investments in clean technologies. And only if clean technology investments manage to outperform the rise in energy demand for 2-3% in the enough time, it will happen that somewhere in the mid of this century we can run the energy system without fossil fuels. So this is more like a comment and offering a different perspective. And also about overshooting. Overshooting is not that.
It's a very long question you
sorry,
have.
that was okay. I will keep this
So-
one for maybe less.
Yes, very good perspective. And just to give a final comment, what the science is showing us and the critical situation, you know that it's very important to phasing out. But you know, in the practical, it's not easy like to do what the science is presented to us. We had a history of investment in oil and gas sector. We need we depend of this kind of fuels for our life, you know. Then yeah, I agree with you. Then probably it is happening like 2060. We don't know exactly, but it's part of the trajectory, the investment in clean energy. But the problem is that we probably will achieve more than 3 degrees Celsius, and we see the impacts of this. I totally understand, but yeah, it's not easy to transition away from fossil fuel. Thank you so much. It's a paradigm.
Kafarov, Industrial University of Santander, Colombia. I know, and we all know that bioethanol is very wide applied in transportation in Brazil. But yesterday we heard opinion in plenary lecture that bioethanol is not the sustainable solution. What is your point of view about this?
Good question, because as I said, we don't have one solution. We have to identify which kind of technology and solution fit better for a specific country, for example. In the case of Brazil, as I said, the electricity, we have a low carbon energy metrics, electricity metric. And this makes sense, investment in electrification, also biofuels like biomethane. Also, we have a new law regarding biomethane because of the high production of biomass. And it makes sense for Brazil. But we have to identify the capabilities, the specific conditions of other countries. And as I said, I cannot say that we have to electrify all the transportation system. Maybe heavy, yes, it's a good idea, but we have to identify the potentials. Also, I say that we have to pay attention in the life cycle analysis. Sometimes electric vehicle is not good for a country if you are using, for example, coal to produce electricity, you know? Thank you.
I have 2 questions regarding electric vehicles, and you have one afterward. After me, yes. First of all, you asked the question, how many have an electric vehicle in the audience? How many usually raises their hand? Because I was also a little bit surprised that there was only 4 people here.
Four people.
You saw 4 here, but how
Yeah.
many usually indicates when you ask that question in an audience?
Only few people, like
very few.
2, 5, 7, depend of the event. Like in Europe, many more people. I see like 20, 30, 40 people raising hands.
Yes, yes.
But in Latin America, like you see, more of them are not from here. Then it's still
I have not seen any of the 10 days I've been in the region. So, but I have another questions about electric vehicles because in Denmark we also see it as an issue of equity. because until now we have lowered the taxes on electric vehicles, but since electric vehicles have been pretty expensive, it means that it's been the affluent people, the rich people, who have gained from this, whereas the poor people, they could only afford the cheap petrol cars anyway, so they would never be in line for the expensive vehicles. Secondly, we also have an issue of charging infrastructure, because if you own your own house, you can get your own charger, you can get electricity at a low price, whereas if you are renting an apartment somewhere, you have to go to a public charging station, something which is financed and bought and operated by a power company or something, and they of course charge for that convenience. So it's more expensive for them. So up until now, the rich people, they have been able to reap the benefits, and the poor people, they have not. Do you see an issue like that also in Brazil?
Exactly. This translate for me, this is unjust transition. Because we see clear that people that have a high income can buy an electric vehicle or live in a big house. You can implement installation of a solar panel and have a smart system, reduce the cost of electricity. But poor people that are using public transportation, especially in countries like Brazil and other, Colombia, you see that they are facing very big problems, including bad quality of the transportation, pollution, and other problems. And they are inspiring this kind of air pollution, the pollutants that we are producing. This for me is clear, Paul, very good point. This is injustice, represent injustice, and we have to invest more in public transportation. Because of this, I defend. And of course, using the co-benefits of electrification that we reduce only not air pollution, but noise pollution, etc. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I think we will make this the last question of the session.
Thanks. So this was actually an excellent question to motivate my next question, which was also about equity and justice from the public sector perspective. So you just mentioned that. In Santiago de Chile, we have more than 3,000 electric vehicles today. So it's probably the second largest fleet after China worldwide. But we did that study, so we follow by GPS all the electric buses and all the internal combustion engine buses in Santiago de Chile, and we found that the poor neighborhoods of Santiago are basically exposed to more PM 2.5 or basically internal combustion engines, and all the electric buses are basically going through the rich neighborhoods or more let's say better better neighborhoods. So this is also, from my point of view, good. I mean, we are developing the public transport which is electrified and so on, but still poor people are facing more pollution, less noise reduction and so on. So what is also your view on how basically public policies in this type of sense should be implemented?
I had an opportunity to visit Santiago, Chile, and you are doing a very good, especially hydrogen electrification. And yeah, we have to prioritize the benefit for all the society. And I am just concerned because when you are talking about electric vehicles, remember that you are talking about private sector that are selling vehicles. This is a business model if someone is getting money with this. So we have to focus on public investment and make better quality of life for the population. And I'm just afraid sometimes that it looks like a greenwashing sometimes, right? Yeah, this is my opinion, and I agree that maybe like your position, I see that Chile is doing a good job, but of course the benefits has to be first for the community. Thank you.
Nevin is just trying to figure out something, and so therefore I will accept one more question if you have a question. Yes.
Hi. To overcome the issue of charging. Is battery swap shops being considered in Brazil?
Sorry, I couldn't listen very well. And you want
To overcome the problem of charging stations, is battery swap shops being considered as an option in Brazil? That requires some cooperation between the different companies producing electric
I'm
vehicles.
not engaged in this kind of studies, but of course, I forgot to mention the problem regarding batteries, right? We are seeing now the geopolitical situation and everybody looking for rated minerals, etc. But I'm sorry if I can't answer your question, but I see clearly the problem regarding chargings, but battery is another issue that we are discussing.
Thank you very much. Tomislav, will you come here? You have some practical information. Please step up here. While you're walking up here, I would like people to give final applause.
Well, I mean, it's very shortly. The tour starts at 2:30 in front of the hotel, so you have time after lunch to refresh, and that's it. We will have 3 chivas. They will take us. They will take us to the tour. You have the itinerary. We'll finish around 5:30. And the Chiva will basically take us almost to the restaurant, which is a very nice place on the beach. And that's it. See you at 2:30. Now we have lunch, and Neven wants to say something.
Yes, because the restaurant is at the beach. So if you take a swimming suit, you could actually have a swim. It's a nice beach. Okay, thank you.
So the
Dress code.
So the
As light as possible.
so dress code is swimming suit.
Yeah. Only don't be late. Yeah, but
For attending the session, and we have lunch.
yes.